Yeah, Percy, I hate to say it, bro, but you need to hit the gym. Thank you to our final patrons, Sins Lancelot, Art Goon, Praise the Sun, and Strawbones. A big thank you to our Noise, $69 tier patron, Brian. Now, before we hop into this little breakdown on how I think Percy is a bit weak for where he's supposed to be, please leave your own thoughts on Percy's strength in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure that little notification so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, do a Patreon down below where you support for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into the discussion. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and yeah, Percy a little bit fodder, a little bit weak, a little bit outclassed. And the reason I note this is just because now with all of the other three knights in the picture, it's really evident how weak Percy is. Like, for the longest, we had that sin statement. Well, we didn't know for sure if it was sin, but the statement that, oh, the only people who could destroy the level of chaotic dead summon is the level of someone on the 7 deadly sins tier, which obviously could mean like Gother, but at the same time could mean like the one ultimate Eskin. No, I'm kidding. But still, that's pretty darn powerful. And then when Tristan popped up, we got to see him casually, mind you. No full power, now that we know that. Because at first we thought, oh, maybe he just doesn't have his demon powers. But no, we know he's got them on lock. Casually, just one shot, one tap, a despair amps Percy. And Pelgard ran. And then finally, in the latest chapter, we get to see Gawain bring Pelgard some pain. And Tristan is able to keep up with Pelgard in that chapter while he's on his flying shield. And what does Percy admit the very chapter before? I cannot beat Pelgard. He's simply too strong. He's too... I was about to go on a whole tangent. But essentially, Percy's weak. And, like, I'm not saying that it's illogical for Percy to be weak. Notably, every single one of our other knights is a product of certain environments that encourage whatever potential they had. Lancelot was kidnapped for a whole bunch of years and trained by the Lady of the Lake. He's got gains. That makes sense. Tristan is the son of the strongest demon and strongest goddess outside. Well, Melios literally is the strongest demon to ever exist. And depending on whether or not you want to consider the supreme deity an actual goddess or not, Elizabeth is the strongest goddess to ever exist. So, yeah, his strength makes sense even without training, but also he has the whole Edinburgh plotline and was likely trained by either A, Meliodas, B, Elizabeth, C, Mael, or D, all of the above. So that makes sense that he would be as powerful as he is. And of course he has the whole Edinburgh plotline. Like, there's stuff that he's done too in his time period, which explains his strength. Then Gawain. We don't know a lick about Gawain's backstory, but she already has full superiority over Pelgard, a extreme mastery of Sunshine, even better than Escanor had, much better than what Escanor had at her supposed age of 16. And on top of that, she already has a toolkit that contains 2 of the most powerful spells in the verse, with freelance teleportation and absolute cancel. And obviously, she literally just nearly bisected Pelgard. So her level of strength is different too. But then you got Percy. And he just kind of fought her. And like, that's not necessarily, once again, it's not his fault, but now the question becomes, how are we gonna catch him up? Because it's not like suddenly all the potential of the other knights is gonna be squandered. They are still only 16 too, yet they are starting from a much higher power baseline than Percy is. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I feel like maybe we're gonna have to Kenpachi this. Kenpachi Zaraki this. And by that, I mean, we're gonna have to slaughter that man over and over again until he gets up. Like, straight up, I don't know how he's going to keep up. And you gotta realize, like, another big thing, these, like, Pelgard may be one of Arthur's top lieutenants, and so may Ironside be. But even still, Ironside and Pelgard, who seem to be relative to each other, are getting smacked around by any of the 3 knights, like Lance, Tristan, and Gawain. That's just happening right now. Meaning that if Arthur just so happens to have any other higher tier knights that are relative, such as the Star Knight that Lancelot's hunting down, then that could mean that Percy is multiple tiers below the knights. He's already technically a whole tier. There's at least one gap tier. Heck, hypothetically, depending on how Fittich scales relative to Pelgard, 2 whole tiers. Because we know Percival was shaking in his boots at the sheer thought of fighting Fittich. And then we know he's still shaking in his boots in fear because he knows he can't beat Pelgard. And then you have the other 4 knights. So Percy's big lacking. And notably, any training that could be done with him can also be training done by the other knights that'll keep that gap ahead of him. So now I'm just wondering, Knockabout, how do you plan to catch my boy up? Like, I outside of literally abusing his nature as the Death Knight, I don't really see a way for him to catch up, and that's kind of concerning. Mainly the reason I'm so hung up on Percy's strength is because this is gonna sound bad. He's not needed. In a similar vein that I was talking about the Percy platoon, where all their abilities are either A, present in other characters, or B, simply not useful enough outside of maybe one, all of Percival's major abilities are kind of irrelevant. Healing, you have Tristan for that. Raw power, you have all of them for that. Sheer flexibility and manipulation of a certain substance, you have Tristan for that. Like, every single role that Percy could fulfill outside of just minor support roles are covered. And even the minor support roles that he has covered are still covered. Like, the only thing he could hypothetically bring to the table is the Despair Amp, but he doesn't even know how to use that yet. And even then, the Despair Amp is fodder. Because if Tristan didn't even have to pull out the Demon Eye, no Demon Mark, just some twin Triskelions and vibing, I don't really see Percy stepping up to the plate. So now the question becomes, what do we do with weak Percy? Is this just going to be his arc for a while? Is he just going to be watching the other knights run around and curb some everybody? And if so, like, yeah, that would kind of suck. And I know it's, like, not necessarily impossible for Percy to just randomly get stronger. Like, that's entirely possible. But I'm just wondering how Nakaba is going to do it. And how he's going to keep Percy relevant. Because we're already talking about how the entire main squad up to this point, Nasians, Donnie, and they're all pretty much useless up to this point. I kind of just gotta get them up out of here. So is the entire Tristan platoon. We haven't even gotten much of those characters, but all of their abilities can be easily replicated by the 3 remaining actually power-relevant knights. And the reason I'm so focused on power is because this is 7 deadly sins. Well, no, it's 4 knights of the apocalypse. Power is everything. Look what happened to the Holy Knights after season 1. What happened? They got power crept, and thus were never relevant again. Look at what happened to some of the 10 Commandments. They got power crept, and thus were never relevant again. Look at what happened to some of the sins. They got power crept, and were never relevant again. However, notably, the only thing that makes me have faith in Nakaba and faith in Percy is that Percy is the main character. So one way or another, he's going to have to catch up. But now I'm just wondering how. Mainly because Percy, he's in a limbo right now. Sure, he's going to be fighting Gawain next chapter, and who knows, maybe I will be proven wrong, and he's actually secretly been relative to the other knights this whole time, and bada bing, bada boom, he could actually wash Pelgard. He just didn't believe in himself and didn't want to wash him, because, you know, Percy, he's just too nice of a dude. But, I don't know, I'm kind of concerned. But at the same time, on a more positive note, I could see a whole narrative being spun around this, right? Like, the idea that Percy just feels inadequate next to the fellow knights, like Lance, Tristan, Gawain, they're all so competent, amazing, and powerful. Meanwhile, he's just some random dude from the top of a mountain, and he feels completely useless. And I think that could lead to a very interesting story. However, that would exclude Tristan from a lot of battles, and that's the thing. In a battle manga, you gotta stay relevant. At least in terms of power, or at least in some way in combat, or else you can't really exist in the narrative. It's like in a sports manga, your main character suddenly isn't able to play the sport. That's the thing, like, or is able to play the sport, but at such a low level that they're essentially irrelevant next to their fellow main characters. That's the issue. That's kind of the problem I have with some characters like Diane, like Lothar. Like, they sort of just fall to the side, but they weren't the main character. So I have hope for Percy. I have hope for Percy. However, this is just supposed to be like a simple discussion talking about like where Percy stands narratively in terms of his strength and what that means for the future. But what do you guys think? I give you my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.